Thank you for joining this virtual event and welcome to this beautiful greenhouse center. You know, while it's disappointing that we can't have a face-to-face event, which would typically be followed by drinks, nibbles, and a networking opportunity, I'm extremely pleased with the turnout to this virtual event. And to me, it really shows that you all care about the development of our young people in our society. We have a lot to cover in this 1 hour. So the first thing I will do is I will go over the Greenhouse 2.0 strategy. So it's going to just be a few slides. We will then have a session with my first guest, Lord Sebastian Coe. And we are so lucky to have him supporting this event. He has had an amazing sporting career, but what is also great about him, that he really believes in the power of sport as an educational tool. So, you know, there will be a video, and I asked him a few questions about the key strands of our strategy. We then have a session with our second guest, Amma Agbezi. And Amma Agbezi is the captain netball, and she actually won the golden medal at the Commonwealth Game in 2018. She's also an ambassador for Greenhouse. She is very, very passionate about women and girls in sport. And she will be in conversation with Coach Lucia, who is one of our female coach, very inspirational coach, who actually coached in one of our schools in East London, Central Foundation. So they will be having a conversation with two of our participants, two young ladies. So, you know, there will be Q&A. We want the session to be as engaging as possible. So you will have the opportunity to pose questions in the chat box, but also to make it even more engaging, there will be some polling questions, and they will be throughout the whole session. So you will see questions appearing on the screen, and you just have to respond to it, right? So let's have a few minutes on Greenhouse 2.0. And on my first slide, you can actually see our mission statement. Every child should have a fair chance to succeed. And you know what? This has been around for quite a number of years, and this was the sentence that made me take the job with Greenhouse Sports. You know, I used to work in the corporate world before, but when I saw this, I said, this is for me an opportunity to do something for young people in London. And we use the power of sports and mentoring, we use that as a vehicle to really get, you know, instill some life skills with the children. So, inequality, if we go to the next slide, I mean, inequality, I mean, you see some shocking stats on this slide. 37% of children in London are living in poverty. And what is even more striking, that 76% of those children are actually in working families. So you are really talking about working poverty. Wealth is very unequally distributed in London. And in fact, the top 10 deciles, so the top 10% hold about 43% of the wealth. And the lower 10% only hold 0.1%. Another study which affected me very well when I was working with the team on Greenhouse 2.0 is the A study. The A study is really about the correlation between adverse childhood experience and premature death. So you see we have a lot of inequality in our city, and yet we live in one of the G7 countries. So what do we do, roughly? Well, you know, we have programs across London. So we work across 17 London boroughs and basically 50 programs where we deliver a coach, a full-time coach, which will deliver extracurricular activities. So, you know, and we obviously work in the most deprived schools, or the schools which has the most deprived children. We also have a center here where I'm sitting currently, the Greenhouse Center, which is based in Marylebone, Westminster, where we deliver sports activity for young children in the afternoon, and in the morning we want to push it more and more to become a community center for the people in the area. A couple of key stats. We work roughly with 7,200 kids during the year, of which 6,000 in schools. 38% of our kids are female, and obviously we want to get that number higher up. 77% are from a BAME background, so Black, Asian, and ethnic minority. And 69%, and that is an important figure that we are looking at, are really living in areas of deprivation. When we develop our interventions, we are always looking at the impact of our interventions. And one of the key stats I really love to say is that actually greenhouse sport participants, on an average spend, well, actually up to 8 days more in school, which is very important because we want kids to be in school and to learn. So another key stats is 77% tend to improve their mental well-being. So let's move on then and talk a little bit about what's different. What else are we going to do, which is really Greenhouse 2.0? Well, I like to summarize it really with 3 words. I think our interventions are amazing. And so I want to go earlier with the team, so work with younger kids, and therefore we launched the Greenhouse Primary Program. We want to do more of these, and obviously we would need more money to be able to deliver our interventions, and we want to go deeper. And when I say deeper, it means that obviously to continuously improve what we are delivering, but also work with other charities and deliver the work of other charities or the intervention of other charities to our kids. So wouldn't it be great if our cohort of kids could also benefit from a place to be offering on mental health, or from offering from other charities on how to increase self-confidence or help with academic support. So this is not about us delivering those interventions, but really working in partnership with the best in class, so our kids get to benefit from the best possible support they can get. I call it almost like filling the cracks and bringing the private school system to our kids. So, I think I've given you a very good overview of Greenhouse 2.0, and now without further ado, I would like you to share the key moments of my conversation with Lord Seb Coe. Thank you, Seb, for joining us in Greenhouse Centre, the hub of Greenhouse Sports, an organisation that helps young people, here in London. We try to give every child a fair chance to succeed, that. And I would like also to take the opportunity to thank you for the support over the many years, through the Seb Coe Charitable Foundation.
Well, Beatrice, it's just lovely to be here. In fact, given that we're in lockdown, it's just nice to be anywhere at the moment. But it's a fabulous building, it's a fabulous charity, and I'm very, very honoured to be part of it. And it's served already a generation of young people incredibly well.
I think we could start by seeing a little clip that we shot just after the lockdown and a little bit before the summer. And I think the clip with Mason, little Mason, and Coach Tanner, for me demonstrates very well the relationships that the coach has, that special relationship that the coach has with the young people we work with. So let's have a look at the clip.
She was like a very caring mum, always looked after me, made sure that I had food and I had clothes all the time. And I just wanted to make her proud by doing basketball. If I wasn't doing sport, then I don't know what I would be doing. I've not been brought up to be doing something bad, so I thought that if I do sport, then it'll just get me out of the bad stuff and keep me to the good stuff.
Let's go, here we go.
Coach Tanner is amazing because he will never ever leave you out. He's so kind, and he will always make sure that if you want to accomplish something, you will actually accomplish it.
When I was young, I used to get in trouble a lot with the law. What would have really served me well would be having that mentor figure in my life, which I kind of had with my mum, who quite abruptly told me I needed to leave London and follow my basketball career. So now, for me, it's about being that person for the next generation. The fact that I'm able to have an impact on their life, steer them in the right direction, they're all the reasons that, made me become a coach.
It's made him gain more confidence in himself, and he's more outgoing He's not so shy now, whereas before he would hardly talk to anyone.
When she passed away, she was 38, and I aim for me and my team to reach 38 points or more to make her proud.
He's 13 at the time, and he walks into my office and he just says to me, you know, "Coach, I don't want you to feel that I'm down at sessions because of you." And he actually just told me it was because he lost his mum the year before that he might be a bit upset at times. And for me, it was so powerful because Mason was putting me in front of himself when he was the one that went through something traumatic. Just situations like that, it makes being a part of Greenhouse really special.
You know, for us in Greenhouse Sports, we refer to our coaches as the lifeblood of our organization. I think you can see that special relationship that Tanner has with little Mason. How do you see that?
Beatrice, I've been involved in sport now for over 50 years, either as a competitor or as administrator. I was chairman of UK Sport back in the 1980s, and I'm president of the largest Olympic sport. And I know that the one thing that defines everything in those different spheres of activity has been coaching. And it's not coaching that's simply there to identify outrageous talent. It's coaching that plays almost the role of a social worker in all our communities. And to see the impact that a coach has had on the life of Mason, who came through a really traumatic period in his life, has found some self-esteem and some comfort through a coach. And coaches are often extended members of the family. Actually, sometimes when the family becomes a little dysfunctional, they're probably the only key anchor points in the lives of young people. So coaching is so important, and it is so much more important than simply a medals table or how many of your athletes can you get through to a final. It's allowing those athletes, those competitors, those young people, way beyond the field of play to make good decisions for the rest of their lives, and that's why coaching is just such a profound legacy.
Yeah, and I think that is what is quite unique about this organization, Greenhouse Sports, is that these coaches are there full-time in the schools from morning till evening, and they develop that special relationship. I call them a little bit pseudo-parents, because you know, little Mason lost his mother, and he will go to Tanner not just for sports or or advice on school, but just to have a general chat. So it's quite endearing to see that little clip, and in fact, the team knows that this is one of my favorite clips.
Beatrice, I was the product of great coaching. Okay, my coaching took me to a pretty high level in sport, but I also know that the coaches I worked with became lifelong friends of mine. They helped me make decisions way beyond my competitive years, and they're also the ones that are there 24/7. Coaching is not something you do simply on a Sunday morning. At this very moment, there are millions of people on the planet that are coaching, and they will be doing the same morning, noon, and night. And it's a God-given profession, but it is something that is so essential. And I just wish politicians properly understood the role of coaches and sport at local community level. It's profound.
I was going through some stats about inequality, and I just focus on London. And, I was mesmerized. I mean, still, I think there are about 700,000 people, young people, children in London who live in poverty. I think there is something around, the stat says that 37% of young people in London live in poverty. But what is so striking is that these 76% of these are coming from working family. So you have quite a lot of inequality in London. On top of that, often, I mean, I think it is quite clear that poverty, there is quite a big correlation between poverty and mental well-being, problems of employability and so on. So the role of an organization like us is really, really important.
I don't think sport has ever played a more important role in the lives of young people, and particularly in the contribution it makes to social cohesion. Anybody that's been involved in sport for many years knows that. PE teachers know that, local coaches know that, sports clubs know that. They are the anchor points in the lives of young people. I think probably now the establishment is beginning to wake up to the impact, and a good health policy is predicated on a good sports policy. A good economic policy is predicated on a good sports policy. And I could make that point right the way through the eco system. Sport is such an important element, and making sure that we fund these programs properly, and also making sure that organizations like Greenhouse Sport, volunteer organizations out there making their own luck, if you like, and coming to the table with great creativity is really important. And look, over the last year, the one thing that we have known is that we started off the pandemic with a slightly lazy, and I'm probably as much to blame for that. We've all used that expression, it was going to be the great leveler. It wasn't the great leveler. It's hit those communities at the wrong end of the socio-economic system. It's hit those communities who have low educational aspiration, are in poor housing, where income distribution is probably never been at its widest. And look, we can't do anything about changing central bank policy or building more houses, but we can approach a really important element, and that is we can do something to boost the immune systems of those communities.
So we both agree, the impact of sports on mental well-being is important, but also physical. Like you said, it boosts the immune system, which I think, I totally agree with you. But then, let's talk about women in sports or girls in sport. Obviously, for them, it's important as well. And still, we tend to see a lower participations of girls and women in sports. Even in Greenhouse Sports, we try, we push very hard. But I think the percentage is still around 33%. And I would like to get it up. So we are lucky to have an ambassador, Ama Akbezi. She's an amazing, athlete as well. Commonwealth champion, in netball. And, we did a little clip of her. She's obviously in New Zealand now, with her husband. I think she has been there now for a few months.
That's a good place to be at the moment.
It's a good place to be, exactly. I think there was zero COVID there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but she was in conversation with one of our female coaches, Coach Lucia, unbelievable coach as well, who coaches only, in a girls' schools only in East London. And she has that, the conversations with Coach Lucia and then two of the girls participants.
Hi guys, it's Emma here. I'm calling in from New Zealand. I just thought we'd start by introducing ourselves. So I'm a Greenhouse Sports ambassador. I played Netball England and captained the team to Commonwealth Gold 18. I'm a lawyer and a mediator, do bits and pieces. So I do lots of things across the board. I go into a lot of schools and do speaking and sort of helping support young women and young people with fitness and exercise and wellness.
So lovely to meet you. I think we're all really, really looking forward to this call. My name is Coach Lucia. I am the volleyball coach of Greenhouse Sports, and I'm based here at Central Foundation Girls School, working with a fantastic set of young ladies who you can see here next to me on the other screen are two of my young women.
Hi, my name is Mia.
Hi, I'm Bashira.
Hi, Mia. Hi, Bashira. What year group are you in?
Yeah, we're both in year 9.
Are you in the same class or different classes?
We don't have any classes together.
Oh, so is it literally just volleyball that's brought you guys together?
And yeah, basically.
What made you decide to do the volleyball program with, was it Coach Lusa, or did you like volleyball before? What sort of inspired you?
I just wanted to try new sports. I've tried a lot of sports. I thought, why not try volleyball? And I really learned to love it.
And what's Coach Lusa like as a coach?
She's very supportive.
You don't have to say the nice things, you can be honest.
She is supportive, and she encourages you. And if you make a mistake, she'll go over it until you get it right.
A nice, gentle coach, it sounds like it. Lisa, how long have you been a greenhouse volleyball coach, and how long have you been at Central Foundation School?
This is my third year here at Central Foundation Girls School. I took over from a lovely coach before me, so there was an existing program. And my first day in the school has been these two young ladies' first day at the school as well. We have a lot of girls playing volleyball in the school, and the girls are actually working very, very, very hard. So it's always lovely to see packed sessions and a lot of smiles. We're more of a team, a community here, rather than a hardcore sports setting where we're here and we're making friends and we're playing sports and we're keeping fit and active. So that's our aim here.
Not just about winning and those coaches who are literally making you sweat blood and tears. You do it for other aspects, not just for the sport.
I mean, girls, correct me if I'm wrong. Winning is nice. It's not a bad thing. Working hard for it is always a part of being the part of the team as well. But winning is not our only sole purpose. We're here to be a community.
And Bashira, how do you fit the volleyball in around your lessons and your other schoolwork?
I usually go at lunch times and after school, and it's really fun because it gives you a break from schoolwork as well and a distraction. So it's really fun.
Do you find it difficult to balance your time? And are you happy to give up your lunch times and stay back after school, or is it challenging for you?
I find it convenient that we can have volleyball at lunchtime. I think it's good for me. And also practically all of my friends are from volleyball. So, yeah.
And were they your friends before you started volleyball?
Yeah, I only became friends with them through sports. Yeah.
And what do your parents think about you doing the Greenhouse Sports program? Do they encourage you, or are you able to just make your own decisions and do whatever it is that you like?
Make my own decisions.
Yeah.
Nice. When I was at school, my parents were all about education. So I played netball and I did all sports, like you said, Mia, that you did. But they were just interested in me doing my schoolwork, making sure I did my homework. And so I kind of had to make sure that I was on top of my education before I got to go off to do stuff at lunchtime or after school. So you girls are very lucky, very lucky. And Lusa, you came from a background of playing volleyball. So how did you get into coaching, and why Greenhouse?
Oh, it's a family thing for us. Both of my parents were professional athletes. My dad was an Olympian in handball and my mom was a national volleyball player. Unfortunately, I've never been as good as them, but I was just good enough to earn some scholarships, earn scholarship offers to the States and to the UK. And that's how I came over here, through sports, and I could continue my education at the same time. And that all have been thanks to sport. And my family is here as well. And my mom is she set up a big volleyball club. So I started to assist her. And I was like, wow, this is so much more fun than my office job. Why not start coaching? And then the greenhouse opportunity came around, and I just could not wait to apply. And that was probably the best decision ever.
Oh, wow. So you left your 9 to 5 behind and you've not looked back since. And I wanted to talk to you guys about lockdown. Obviously, it's unprecedented, never happened before. I think for adults, it's really difficult to deal with. But adults are a little bit mature in their experience of things and trying to cope and deal with things. And so I wanted to speak to you, Maya and Bashira, just about how you felt during lockdown, and initially the first lockdown, so the lockdown before the summer holidays, where you were literally just at home. How did you guys cope with that?
So it was kind of like boring, not really doing anything, but we got to like bond with our family and come closer.
During the first lockdown, me and my other friends from volleyball, we took part in some home coach sessions with Lutza, the volleyball coach.
Was it good to do those sessions to break up your day? Because I think for me, I had lots and lots of meetings virtually, and it just got really monotonous and I got really tired. But then I looked forward to catching up with my team to do some training sessions, just because it was a chance to see some other people, relax, and also get rid of some energy that I had built up. And so did you find the same thing, that doing the sport helped you concentrate on the other things as well?
Yeah, it was a
Good distraction.
yeah.
And Lusa, I did actually see some of your Instagram and saw some of your home coach sessions, and I saw your wall and your mat and things. How was it for you, sort of going from seeing these girls almost every day to suddenly talking to a screen and not necessarily getting much feedback and having to deliver? What was it like for you?
Oh my God, probably one of the most surreal experiences of my life. Some of the year 9 girls, like these two ladies, by lockdown came more than 140 times to sessions. So I've seen them literally every day or several times a day. And we went into, okay, from Monday on, you're staying home. So I was racing to school to give every girl, loan them out a volleyball. And instead of seeing them just trying to talk into a camera by myself, and trying to record these things and edit these things. And there are so many things as you can do alone with a volleyball as well. So as to think up, all of these things have been very, very different compared to our sense of community that you see every day here in the sports hall. So it was very different. I couldn't wait it to end. I couldn't wait it. And I think my husband had enough of me as well. Always bouncing the ball whilst he had meetings in the living room, and volleying the balls on the wall and talking by myself. So it was fantastic when we could go to Victoria Park in the summer to do some summer camp on the grass. It was lovely to be back after such a weird time.
I didn't realise that you did some summer camps, and so you actually got together with some of the girls. Sumaya and Bashir are part of the summer camps.
Yes, Bashir was there. Do you want to say some stuff about the summer camp? Like, how did it look, Bashir?
So there was just 4 of us because we had to be in a small group, and we got to like bond more and make friends in other years as well, because there was 2 other people in year 11, and it was really fun.
And how did it feel interacting with girls from older year groups? Because at school normally, when lessons are on and those kind of things, do you usually interact with the older girls, or do you kind of keep to your own years normally?
Usually we keep to our own years, so it was fun being with other people who also have the same interests as us.
Yeah, I think that's really that's the great thing I think about sport, that you actually in the team, lots of the teams that I play now, I'm the oldest person, but you'll never know, because I love messing about, and there's like 16-year-olds, there's people in there who I could be their mom, but we still get on really well, and basically through sport we've become friends, and we happily do things together. And so I love that about sport, and I'm hoping that you'll keep doing the Greenhouse programme. Obviously you like Coach Lusa, but it will stand you in good stead when you move away from school. You'll still have sport, and you can interact with lots of people who you wouldn't necessarily have met or spoken to if it wasn't for sport. London must be really different in terms of traveling and the number of people and how busy it is. Is that the case, Lusa?
Well, for an adult, I think it's slightly different. So I found myself just to come to work, and then you go home, and other than have a big walk, you have no other opportunities. So I can't tell the girls enough how lucky they are. I can't play volleyball right now. I'm playing in a team, and I can't go to play my volleyball in the evenings and in the weekends. And it's very hard, but luckily I can get all my volleyball energy out on these poor girls. So we're a bit more intense right now. How do you find it? I know you're New Zealand, but
yeah, I'm in New Zealand now, but when we went into lockdown in March, I was in the UK, and it was just such a roller coaster. So I left the UK at the end of August. But between March and August, I went from, okay, this is great. I have the longest to-do list ever. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be great. I'm going to get everything done. And I spent a week going full out, constantly on having meetings and working through my list. And then by the end of that week, I just couldn't cope. And so went to the next week, I basically did nothing. And so, yeah, it's just been so up and down. And then I'd have a good idea about doing something, but then trying to get the motivation to actually go through and do it was really difficult. So in New Zealand, they're quite strict about it. So it's called managed isolation. So you have 40 days in a hotel where you're pretty much in your room most of the day. You're allowed out to exercise an hour a day. They deliver your meals, and that's pretty much it. So I found that really difficult, just being by myself. And I don't mind my own company and staying in my room, but I think knowing that you don't have freedom is what's difficult. And then when I came out of the 2 weeks at the hotel, Auckland, which is where I am, was in lockdown. And so I came out of the hotel and then got to my Auckland home and basically just had to stay at home for, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks. So it's been a really strange time. And now New Zealand is back to almost being free. We don't have to wear masks anymore. I've been to 2 weddings with over 150 people each. I went to the rugby, there were 40,000 people. And so it feels really surreal to me that I've come from total lockdown to this. And yet it can also disappear like really quickly because the cases rise again. So it's just been really up and down. And I know that a lot of people have been struggling and trying to come to terms with the world as it is now. So yeah, thanks for asking, Lusa. What I'm grateful about is it's going into summer here. But for you guys, it's winter time. And so it must be cold and getting dark. And is that making it is it feeling different to the last lockdown?
It doesn't really make a difference, but yeah, I think it's okay. We're fine with it. Yeah.
You sound so positive. Send me some of your positive vibes. And I can see the net behind the girls. And so do you girls always train indoors in that sports hall?
Sometimes we play outside. There's a court outside, which we also play on.
At some lunchtime clubs.
And so sometimes are other sports using the sports hall? Is that why you can't have access?
Yeah, there's other lessons going on, so we have to go out.
And you girls what lesson did you get to miss to be on this pool?
History, maths.
Hopefully, I'll take the cake payment later. But hopefully you catch up on anything that you've missed. So Bashira, I heard that during the recent lockdown, when the Black Lives Matter movement came to the fore, that you made some sort of photo collage or montage. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
It was a part of a competition that we did, and I made a photo montage about Black Lives Matter and people who have died due to police brutality and getting justice for those people.
Were they people in the UK or in the USA or around the world?
It was mainly America because that's where most of it was happening, so there were more victims there.
And then did you have to do research and find out who the people were? So did you find out about the backgrounds of the people?
Yeah, I just searched up on the internet and found out more about them and then made it into like a PowerPoint thing because it's really sad that they have to die and we haven't got like justice for them.
I just asked the girls before we started the call if have they not been locked down and they were a bit older, if they have gone out to protest, to bring attention on police brutality and racism, and the girl actually said they would have. When they're a bit older, maybe girls, you can do stuff and act for the causes you love.
Like young people today seem to be speaking up more and more confident to speak their mind and support what they stand for. And Maya, did you did you enter the same competition or did you have any thoughts around the time?
I also made a poster. It was of BLM Fest, and around it I wrote people who had died due to the corrupt system and due to racism.
And I think a lot of it is about education and people lacking knowledge and education. So actually I think by you girls and your peers researching and understanding, hopefully that might make changes and make waves in the future. So lets people die or are victims of police brutality and things like that. So it's really good that you guys have done that and have learned about that. So I'm proud of you. Lusa, thank you so much for all that you do for these girls. I know it's more than sport that you give them. You're teaching them lessons that they're going to take in life elsewhere. And I can sense your passion even through the computer. So thanks for that. And thanks for everything you do for Greenhouse. Thanks for joining me, guys. It was great to hear everything you had to say.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
So Seb, what else could we do to get more women in sports? I mean, there are so many activities, so many organizations about that. What are we missing?
Beatrice, it's still a challenge getting more women into sport, particularly young girls. It's been historically a very difficult cohort to activate, but it's a lot better than it used to be. I mean, the numbers are still lagging behind male engagement, but a lot of very good sports, a lot of good governing bodies have really started some outreach programs, some pathways and some platforms and programs to make sure that more young girls feel that they have permission to play sport. There is another element, of course, and that is that you don't just want them being involved in sport, you want them to be in coaching, you want them to be in administration, you want them to be technical officials, and that also is a challenge. So I think it's really important that Greenhouse Sport has actually focused on this as a key area to improve upon, because it is absolutely vital. And mothers have a very big impact on patterns of physical activity in their own home. You know, it's often said, and research shows this, that if a mother is physically active and, you know, a child gets used to seeing them putting on a tracksuit or doing some physical activity over the course of a week, they're more likely to want to emulate that. So parental, particularly maternal experiences are really important in all this. So it's not just about getting more young women playing sport, it's also making sure we keep them in sport and that they in turn can become inspirational figures in the lives of their children.
Yeah. But obviously there is also a cultural aspect. You know, in certain cultures, I don't think, you know, sport is seen as that important or not as important as academic achievement.
But that's the case in some countries for men and women. You know, I've got Indian heritage, but I also know that, you know, there are large parts of Indian society that would prefer to have their children being very successful lawyers and engineers and scientists, and actually sport sometimes gets squeezed into the margins, and that's the case in a lot of countries. I think what people like me and our ambassadors at Greenhouse can help with is to show that it is actually possible to do both and to good effect. And actually, if you speak to all the top CEOs in any of the big businesses, you talk to somebody like Justin King, probably the most successful supermarket retailer of all time in the UK, he will tell you that when it came to the choice between employing somebody who was physically active and somebody that wasn't physically active, even if they had pretty much the same CV, he would always go for the person that was physically active, because he knew that there was probably a greater chance of them being able to undertake physically and mentally the tasks that he was going to set them. And he's by no means unique. So I think that the ambassadors have a role here to make sure that young people know that it isn't, you know, they're not mutually exclusive positions. You can pursue an academic program and still be engaged in sport if you have the right kind of mentoring, the right kind of guidance. And coaches, good coaches, would always want their athletes, their competitors, to be focused on what life looks like when their brief careers are over.
Yeah. Now, during the lockdown, I mean, we took some time to think about, you know, where do we take Greenhouse over the next few years? And I was very much struck by a study that I read on ACE. So that's adverse childhood experience, so the correlation between adverse childhood experience and premature death. And so I was really keen to bring sports to younger groups. So we were obviously specialized in secondary school for secondary school kids, although the center, we did work with primary schools. So I really pushed hard with the team to launch our interventions into primary schools, and I'm really happy to be able to say that we are now in Pimlico already in 2 primary schools. The program starts from the age of 4 all the way to the transitions year, year 5 and 6. It's phenomenal. I think it's going to have an even bigger impact because the intervention is earlier. What do you think about that?
Look, I think early intervention is really important. Of course, there is a balance. You don't want young people doing things physically or mentally that are beyond their years. And you also have to remember the most important element in all this is the first experience that young people have of anything is defining. If their first experience of a sport is uninteresting or just too advanced for what they're capable of doing, they will switch off very quickly and sadly go and find something else to do, and you can't blame them. So it's really important, and this is something that Greenhouse really understands, that we have to make it fundamentally fun, and they need to want to come back and do it again. There is another rather sobering statistic that's probably worth remembering, and that is between the age of 8 and 12, 8 and 13, the average young person becomes 50% less active in their lives. So getting early interventions, making sure that the pattern of exercise is really established, because often if you're addressing those problems when you get to 15 or 16, sadly the horse has often left the stable. It's very difficult to capture those early years again. So making sure that we've got interventions at primary school, I think was a really logical extension of the scope of work for Greenhouse. Yeah. So getting young people into patterns of exercise are really important, but the first experience is absolutely seminal. If it's a poor experience, it's like anything. If you don't like history or you have no interest in history, it's possibly because your history teacher was really boring. Yeah. And taught it in a really unimaginative way. So PE is exactly the same.
So at what age were you pushed into? Did you know that you had a talent and you were pushed into?
I was never pushed.
No. So it's the wrong word.
No, I think this is...
Were you encouraged, or you encouraged yourself?
No, I did it myself, and my parents, my father then became my coach, and then I worked with other coaches. But the most important thing my coaches did when I was sort of 13, 14, 15 was to slow me down a bit. Because the natural instinct in a young person is just to keep doing more and more. So what good coaches are about, and we've got a lot of very good coaches at Greenhouse, they will get this imbalance for young people. So I don't think you can ever push a young person into sport. It's a bit like saying to somebody, you are going to play the violin. If you've got no interest in music, then that's probably never going to happen. It's really important that you find, or you help young people find the sport or the activity that they really enjoy. And there is also something that I now recognize more than ever the older I get, and that is you don't choose your sport chooses you. And the sport will come to you. Young people will find the right sport. It's not necessarily team sports, it might be individual. Some people might hate working in an individual sport and love the fact that they're in the collegiate experience of a team. All these things good coaches and Greenhouse will help young people figure out, and that's why this charity is so important.
That's very helpful. Now, we say, our mission, vision is every child, has a fair chance to succeed, and through sports and mentoring, we are trying to, to work on it. But personally, I don't think that's enough, and I know sports, mentoring, coaching is really at the heart of everything you do. But I believe that these kids and the one, that live in disadvantaged, circumstances, often have other problems. And so I'm keen, with the organization to see how can we fill those cracks. The kids suffer from mental, well-being, and now with COVID, it's going to increase. They have issues with employability. Often the academic results, and again we have numbers on it, are not good. So, you know, their academic attainment is poor. And you accumulate all this and the chances to succeed obviously diminish, and they don't do well in society. They don't become well-rounded individuals. So, you know, I'm keen to work with other charities who specialize in those areas to see how we can collaborate and provide that additional support to our cohort of kids. So, what's your view on this?
Look, I would say this, and there's plenty of research that would back this up. And good physical education teachers have known this long before anybody was tabulating and chronicling this. But there is a very strong correlation between young people that find their self-esteem and their ability to succeed in sport and the translation of that into academic achievement. Often, if a young person finds their self-esteem through sport, they will often sit back and go, well, I'm mastering quite complex concepts in coaching, or I'm learning to do something that's quite complicated. Well, actually, why should I not be able to master physics and chemistry and mathematics? And often there is a very strong correlation. I think that the challenge in the past, and I think we're getting better at it, but I do think we can be a whole heap better at it, and that is that I think too many sports have seen themselves, too many charities, particularly in the sports sector, have seen themselves as competitors rather than collaborators. I think there are different elements in so many different organizations that are actually complementary. And only now are some of the bigger charities, particularly in this sector, beginning to recognize that actually you're all wanting the same destination. There are different directions and there are different skill sets that these particular charities can utilize, but we all want the same thing. We want more young people being able to shape their future, fashion their future from sport, and sport through development. So I think that the more charities like Greenhouse make themselves available, not just to other charities, but actually good practice for government departments, local health authorities, to really understand what we're doing. And I think that's the way forward. I don't think we can sit any longer in the silos that so many charities have sat in for so many years.
And ultimately increase the impact that we make on those kids. So Seb, we have now a second lockdown, and it's terrible because, especially around the center, those kids, it's like a second home for them. So do you think that, these additional restrictions, so the fact that kids cannot come to the center and can't do indoor sports, do you think these restrictions are needed, and do they really outweigh the possibility or the probability that...
Look, Beatrice, I was a member of parliament for a time. I was for a very short period of time a government minister. I know the pressures on politicians of all political persuasions.
Because it's not an easy thing.
And this is not easy. This is probably the biggest challenge that most politicians have confronted in their political lives. I know as president of World Athletics, I can't think of another time that my sport has had to think on its feet and figure out things on a minute-by-minute basis. But there has to be proportionality here. And I think for those of us who operate in sport and have been staging events and have been doing it very successfully with social distancing, we had our Diamond League events, we had our World Half Marathon Championships just a few weekends ago in Poland. Yeah. It was socially distanced and we didn't have the big participation, but some of our stadiums have had people in. I think there is a balance here. And I think politicians have got to think very long and very hard about removing lightly exercise in the lives of the population. And I think there are ways of doing it safely, without being cavalier and without causing any greater stress on the National Health Service. But I do think that it's been a bit of a one-size-fits-all approach. And I really do hope that in future, ministers think very long and very hard about removing exercise in the lives of young people, because it's not just about physical outlet, it is also about their mental well-being, and those are years that are going to be difficult to recover.
So Seb, thank you so much for being here in the Greenhouse Centre, and thank you again for your support through your charitable foundation.
Well, I can't think of a more meaningful and worthwhile organisation to be supporting through the foundation, and I know everybody involved in my foundation is very excited about the work that's taking place here.
Thank you. So here am I again. We will now shortly start our Q&A session. So can I remind you that if you want to ask a question, you just need to scroll down on your device and you will be able to post some question on the chat box. Now I'm going to be joined here by Jason Sugrue, and he's the director of coaching for Greenhouse Sports. He has been around for, I think, 18 years. I think he's employee number 2 or 3. He keeps telling me or reminding me. So I thought it would be a great idea that he joins me here to answer those questions. So I'll read the first question. What impact has COVID-19 had on the charity? Well, you know, we have been hit by COVID-19 like a lot of other charities. So in terms of participation, I mean, you know, we have not been able to reach as many kids as we wanted. And, but, you know, the numbers has not been that bad. I think we saw a drop of about 12.5% of less engagement with kids. Financially, though, like a lot of charities, we've not been able to do our events, and roughly, you know, we lost 1.2 million due to cancelled events. But, you know, we've been creative and we found other ways, you know, new income to prop up our, you know, our funds. But we're still concerned, obviously, for next year because the crisis is not over yet. So, second question. What do you think is the most exciting element of Greenhouse 2.0? Okay, so personally, and I'll ask Jason also to comment on this one, I'm very excited by the earlier bit of Greenhouse 2.0, so basically working with the primary schools. We already opened 2 in Pimlico, and I'm super excited by this because I think as you do an earlier intervention, the impact should be much bigger. So it's great, you should come and visit us in these schools. You know, so that's a part I'm excited about. The other part that I'm excited about is something that in this industry, if I may call it, you know, the charity world, we ought to be better at, and it's that working with partnerships. So if I can work with more partners, for example, Place to Be or other organizations, to offer their interventions to our cohort of kids, so that filling the cracks bit, I would be super excited by that. I mean, Jason, what excites you more about Greenhouse 2.0?
For me, the deep is really exciting. I love the idea of us being able to have an even wider impact on the young people we work with, whether that be around leadership opportunities, employability, some opportunities that we haven't been able to provide before. You know, they've missed a lot of time and opportunities in the last year, let's say. And when we get back into the new part of the strategy, providing different pathways for them, different opportunities, that's the part that really makes me exciting, and all of our coaching team.
Yeah, and I know that you are super excited also about that continuous learning and improvement of the coaches. So, third question, how are you going to encourage and get more girls into sports? For example, the posters that are behind Sebastian and Beatrice are pictures of boys. So, actually, we do have a lot of pictures or banners with girls as well, but I mean, it's a good point. Now, I've asked Amma to help me with replying to this question because she's actually in the audience and she's calling or dialing in from New Zealand, so it must be close to 2 o'clock in the morning. So, I mean, she's a really committed ambassador. So, Amma, thank you very much, and I'm going to read your answer. Hi, it's Amma here. In terms of getting more schools into sport, I think Greenhouse are strategically focused on this. I came on board as an ambassador in order to push things in the female space. There is work in the background on pushing sports that may encourage females more. There are several female coaches running Greenhouse programs, and this allows girls to feel safe in communicating. Although all the athletes grow to trust whatever coach, whoever coach their coaches, whoever person their coaches. I'm pushing for more netball. Also, there are lots of posters, picture, quotes around the center from a diverse array of people. You know, what do you feel we could do more?
Those are great, really, really good answers. And we're really keen to employ more female coaches. But I suppose the exciting bit for us, and definitely the learning we've had over the last couple of years, is that we try to capture as much data from our young people as possible. We also have a youth council that help us to kind of shape our delivery. So we're really engaged with the young people and getting their opinion on what they would like, as well as us trying to strategize and get more female coaches. We want to listen to what the young people want, and especially our young female audience or participants, to really hear what they want and then try and adapt as best we can to deliver what they need rather than what we think.
And frankly, I think also by being in primary school and offering a lot of extracurricular activity, we expose girls more also to sports.
Yeah, and it's an incredible part of it is the relationship between young people and that coach.
Yeah.
So it's really doing some real good staff development to make sure we're talking always about the journey of the young person, the relationship they have. And I think it's something that we've really worked on over the last few years to come to fruition.
Great. Indoor facilities are important, but how much value does greenhouse place on outdoor recreational space? I'll hand that over to you because I know you did a lot of summer camps. And
so, I mean, we've got a mixture of sports that we work with, some more indoors than outdoors, but that's the nature of being in a cold climate, I suppose. But the outside facilities are incredibly important. During lockdown, as soon as we could, the only way we could engage with people physically was to be in an outside space.
Yes.
So we adapted lots of our coaching, our mentoring sessions to be outside. And it's something that the feedback has been incredibly good from the young people, and the coaches really enjoyed it. So we're going to try and do a little bit more. We're going to try and be in our local communities a bit more visible. It was incredible how many people stopped us when we were in different venues outside in parks or wherever we could play,
really?
Trying to find out what Greenhouse is all about. Because, high-class coaching, wherever you can see it, you can really tell the difference between what we're doing and maybe just having a kickabout. So yeah. Being outside is incredibly important.
So, next question, I think we still have time for a question. If you could raise more money, what would you do with it? Well, I would do a lot. I mean, there is so much to be done. I mean, I shared with the numbers with you on inequality, but if I looked at the data in London, and there are about 322 schools in a secondary school in London that would fit the criteria, i.e. where a lot of kids are from kids go to school from high deprivation area, and 1,200 primary school. Now we are currently running 50 programs, so there is so much more to do. So that's what I will be doing. And I'm obviously keen on getting our interventions earlier, so more primary schools. So there is the market, if I can use that word, is still massive. Is there anything that you would want to do more?
You hit the nail on the head in the strategy, which is more, deeper. I'd just love to do more. I'd love to have more coaches working with more young people for more time, because our framework allows us to deliver around our STEP model, which is social, thinking, emotional and physical development.
Yep.
And the more time we get with young people, the more difference and more impact we can make. And not only we can make, they can then make to their communities.
Absolutely. So I think we are done for questions, yes. So, well, I think it's time to close up. I just would like to thank you very much. I mean, I know you are all very busy and you had to take time out of your busy schedule. So thank you very, very much for supporting us. As you've heard, there is more to do. There are lots of kids that need our help and your help. Now, I would also like to take the opportunity to thank all these foundations and all the people or the organization in the audience that are already working with us and supporting us. Thank you very much. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without your support. And for those people in the audience that represent organizations that are not yet working with us, then please, I would love to start that or continue that conversation with you, because you will agree that Greenhouse Sport is doing a phenomenal work. Our coaches, here represented by Jason, are amazing. I call them the lifeblood of our organization. Thank you very much. Stay safe. And I hope we can speak soon again.